My name is Kevin Farmer. I've been in Fulton County for 35 years. My father moved me down here when I was in the middle of 9th grade. I've been in Sandy Springs those 35 years. I went to Riverwood while Bobby was my arch rival at North Springs. Really good rival. I've been a lawyer for 22 years. I still live in Sandy Springs. My kids go to public school at North Springs now. I began my legal career as a public defender. And the first judge I was assigned to was, there she is in the back, Judge Russell. I left public defense after 4 years because I had kids and I needed to make more money. So I went into private practice where I ran my own small firm for 9 years doing civil work, contract law, property disputes, domestic relations, divorces, child custody, and the occasional personal injury case. And then I went back to being a conflict defender, where I went back into the Fulton County criminal justice system and worked to represent indigent folks again. And I knew in the middle of my career that this was going to be a goal of mine. And part of what I thought a judge needed to have was a wide variety of experience and a wide range of cases that they've seen and executed. And I've also been in front of a bunch of different judges. I haven't been stuck in one county for my career. When I was in private practice, I went from Somerville down to Adel. So I've seen a wide variety of courtrooms. I've seen what works, what doesn't work, what's sufficient. And we've all seen judges that treat you with respect and judges that don't treat you with respect. And I think we can probably all agree that everybody that goes in front of a judge should be respected. But at the end of toward the end, I was being a conflict defender, and I knew I was missing one piece to complete my base of knowledge to run for judge, and that was being a district attorney. So for the past 2.5 years, I've been down in Clayton County as a senior district attorney, and I think I'm probably the only one up here who's both defended a murder client to an acquittal and also prosecuted a murder defendant to acquittal. So I have that wide range of perspective, and that's what I hope to bring to the bench. Fulton County has a lot of good things on their bench. The Clayton County really doesn't. They have a drug court. Kind of discussed earlier. They have a veterans court. They have a mental health court. These are things that can help because mental health is a big part of the criminal justice system. But criminal cases are only a part of what a superior court judge sees. If you get divorced, you're going to go in front of a superior court judge. If you have child support issues, you're going to go in front of a superior court judge. If the city of Atlanta wants to build a road where your house is through eminent domain and you don't like it, you're going to go to a superior court judge. So it's not just the criminal aspect being a judge that I bring. I think I've got that unique wide range of experience, and I'm going to ask for your vote both on May 22nd and actually starting on April 30th. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Fani Willis. You spell that F-A-N-I. Last name is Willis. I came to Atlanta to attend Emory Law School back in 1993 after graduating from Howard University. When I came to Emory, it honestly provided every opportunity I hoped it would. I was able to win the national moot court there for the first time in history, and it just gave me a wide range of experiences and prepared me very well. I also have defended a murderer because my first job out of law school was at a small law firm right here on Cleveland Avenue, and I did that for some time, and I always say that was the type of law firm that we did what came to the door with some money law. And the reason I say that is because when you're in a small firm, you have to serve that community. And you serve that community in all different types of cases. We had to serve them if they needed a divorce, if someone was charged with a crime, if there's a bond hearing, if they had a small contractual dispute with a neighbor. Those were the type of cases that we took. And so that was the first stop in my career, and I always say that was better experience than I even realized at the time, because it just took all fear away because you had to go and do the job. From there, I went into sole practice, where I worked everywhere from Douglas County through Fulton County for some years, and mainly did juvenile court law, but certainly served the citizens of Fulton County during that time period, because that was a lot of my client base, because I had left this for Fulton County firm. Went from there to the city of Atlanta as a solicitor, where I served for about 18 months doing city ordinances and arguing about preliminary hearings and murder cases. And then I went to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, where I had been for the last 16 years, 4 months, and 4 days. I resigned on February the 28th, and the reason I resigned is because I wanted to commit to doing this full time. I didn't want anyone to accuse me of doing something unethical, making deals on cases while you're trying to run a campaign. And so I decided that it was in my best interest to just commit to this and, kind of step out on faith. While at the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, I have literally tried every case known. I've tried the longest case in Georgia's history. I've tried RICO cases, I've tried domestic cases, burglaries, anything you can name, I have tried. I have tried probably close to 200 trials at this point in my career. I also supervised the absolute largest division of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and had 25 lawyers that reported to me. Those lawyers were responsible for what I call all the bread and butter cases. That's everything from aggravated assault, drug trafficking, and to armed robberies. You don't need to leave Fulton County to find out how to do this job right. You need to serve it. And my whole career has been spent serving it. We do have different judges, and I can't tell you that all of them are the judge that I emulate to be. So the reason I decided to run for this position, because quite frankly, I love being a trial lawyer. I'm very good at it. But I saw three things that really troubled me while serving the citizens of Fulton County, and they motivated me to run. The first was, we have a certain section of judges that are creating what's called a backlog calendar. A backlog calendar is a few of the judges haven't gotten to their cases. And so now Fulton County is paying senior judges to come in and try cases that are 5 and 6 years old because judges didn't get to them. That is not a service to the victim. That is not a service to the defendant. And that is not a service to the community at large. It is hard for a private citizen to be able to find witnesses 5 years later. And because of my experience, I was the one that was stuck with trying a 5-year-old murder where they can't find the witnesses. It just did a disservice to the community where I lived. The second reason I decided to run is because all the judges aren't perfection. Some are very respectful and some are very nice. I'm not talking about judges that hold you to the fire and say you have to meet your deadlines. But I watched a few take what I thought was personal attacks, both on citizens and on litigators. And I thought that was completely inappropriate and not necessary and didn't serve the community at large. And so then that motivated me. The third motivation, quite frankly, is I've been a single mother for the last 18 years, and so I've been a public servant, and I certainly was paid a fair salary. But being in that position, I live in South Fulton, I have a nice home, and I started to see that different demographics, it seemed to be more important if your door was kicked in some places than the other. And that shouldn't be that way. Lady Justice really should be blind. And so I kind of decided it was like voting. At some point, if you don't vote, you don't get to complain anymore because you didn't participate in the process. And so if I did not offer myself up for public service to the bench, that he is absolutely right. I've been through a divorce. When you're going through a divorce, you don't want to wait 3 years because there's a backlog and a judge didn't come do their job. I've also represented people in a divorce, and I know how stressful that is for you. And so you should have a judge that has the qualifications, that has had a little civil and a little criminal, but you don't need to run to another county to get it. You can stay right here and serve the citizens of this county, and that is what I've done my entire career.
Tell me what you would say to anybody who would say, we've already got enough prosecutors on the bench.
Well, first of all, I think that we hit on what a Superior Court judge does. They definitely decide criminal matters. They look at civil matters in terms of both family law. They have a couple of judges that are designated to do family law, but every judge on the Superior Court will rotate to that process at some point, and then they also handle civil disputes. I would say to the person that says that we have too many lawyers that have been past prosecutors on the bench to look at some of the prosecutors that currently serve on the bench and how efficiently they move their numbers. The reality is, people will tell you that there are more civil cases in Fulton County. What they're doing when they do that is they're taking the family law section that you would be designated to a while, plus the civil. The reality is, Fulton County has a lot of cases. And you need someone that can come to the bench and be ready on day one to handle lots of cases. The particular courtroom that we're talking about, and this judge, has a very heavy caseload with lots of old cases. You need someone that can put boots to the ground on day one and make sure that that calendar moves, that people are treated fairly, and that justice happens.
I'm going to agree with Fonnie. I think we touched on what Superior Court judges do. They do, as I said, it's civil, it's divorce. There is a domestic relations section. You do cycle through it. So I think we did touch on that. As far as, do we have too many prosecutors on the bench? I think we have, short answer is no, but the long answer is I think so. I think everybody who's been up there who is a judge should have some time as a prosecutor, because it's one of the things you're going to see. That's the reason I did this. Now, I didn't run away from Fulton County. Clayton County presented the opportunity to me, and that's why I took it, because I knew I had to get it. But I think who's ever elected should have experience in all the different areas that a Superior Court judge is going to see. And I think, I've only spent 2.5 years as a prosecutor. Like I said, I began my career as a public defender. So I really have seen both sides of that coin, and I have seen huge backlogs. And again, I'm going to agree, trying to find witnesses 3-4 years later is crazy. You have to prioritize what's going to come, because there are folks that are incarcerated. You got to get them dealt with first, because if you're not guilty of something, you're presumed innocent. You're going to go to the top of the line. You need to get your stuff dealt with first. But you do need to hold people's feet to the fire while being respectful. When you set a case, when you specially set a case and say, Monday we're going to trial, and lawyers come in and say, well, I need a little time. Nope, you got 3 weeks, a month to get ready for this. If this doesn't go, that just adds to the backlog, and that creates the problem. You do have to run it efficiently, and I think having been on both sides of that, I think I'm in a unique perspective to do that. Thank you.
There's a lot of talk now about judges, especially Superior Court judges, connecting to community and second chances for people who come before you. I want to know your judicial philosophy as it relates to second chance sentencing.
There are people that you're mad at, and there are people you're scared of. The people you're scared of, they're the ones that have to be separated. The people you're mad at is because they made a dumb decision. Second chances, Fulton County has a pretrial program. We talked about people who make mistakes while they're on drugs. There's a drug court program. There are programs in place for that. I'm a firm believer in that. But what I'm also a firm believer in is that those second chances are evenly distributed and evenly applied. I was a public defender. You see people who, come in with private lawyers. You see people that have better. They get to go. They come in with their client who's already, hey, I've already sent my guy to this program and that program. Can I get this? So the person who doesn't have the money to go to these private programs before they come to court, well, are they going to be able to get that same second chance? They should. The second chance, whether or not you get a second chance, shouldn't depend on your economic background. It really should be evenly applied and distributed. So obviously, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds that are coming before you, I was 17 once. I'm going to stop right there. But yes, I believe in second chances.
I hate to quote Mr. Shigley, but I think he was telling you about when he was a prosecutor, and the reality is that most defendants make bad choices. They're doing something stupid, but they are not the sector that is just evil. Everyone can get a second chance, because we do have those particular defendants that they are such a danger to our community that they're not the ones that we give a second chance. But I tell people all the time, as a prosecutor, you are in such a better position to help people, because you can make decisions regarding charges and sentencing and recommendations and programs, and absolutely across the board people should be given second chances, except for that small section of society that is just too dangerous.
Let's talk about probation. The state of Georgia has the highest per capita population of people who are currently on probated sentences. And much of that is external of the Superior Court, because it deals with private probation. You guys don't deal in private probation. But the question still remains. Individuals get placed on probation. Many of them had a public defender. So that means the courts determined they didn't have a lot of money. And the probated sentence says, you got to do this, do that, and pay money. Would you as a judge violate anyone, send them to prison, if their only offense is a technical offense of not being able to pay probation. And Ms. Willis, we'll start with you and come down.
You know, you've probably asked a question that's right there on the line of ethics of what we can answer specifically about cases. What I would tell you from working in...
Am I on candidate 7 right now?
You're right there on the line.
4.2.
Not quite there, okay.
You're right there. But what I would tell you is I've been in Fulton County. We are not violating people from probation for technical offenses, as you say. Someone is doing their pretrial, they're doing their classes, they're doing the other things that they need. That's not the person that you're going to violate because they couldn't make a financial. That's just not, I don't know if you know other counties, but that's not something that is seen in Fulton County where people are being violated just for financially not being able to meet the requirement. Now what you see is they're not paying money, they don't go to the class, they haven't seen their probation officer in 3 years. Those kind of issues are more when someone is likely to get revoked. And honestly, even then, oftentimes they're getting a chance to come before the judge and be given a speech about, you know, this is your last opportunity to get it right.
You mentioned private probation, and that's misdemeanor
Right.
offenses, and that's not Superior Court. You know, I can speak from A, being in Fulton County, and B, other counties. I don't know, the warrants are brought by probation officers. And, you know, their probation officers are assigned to courtroom. I can just speak to my particular one that I'm assigned to now. She won't bring a petition just for failure to pay. You have to go, you know, pick up a new charge, you skip all your classes, abscond for a year and a half. It doesn't come before my judge, you know, that I'm in front of right now. He never has to even make that decision. But obviously, you know, we can't prejudge a case, say what we wouldn't do on anything other than to say that I would take each case that came before me on its own individual basis and look at it on its own and make a determination independently based on those independent facts and what that person has done or hasn't done.
The background of a Superior Court judge. Outside of the law, outside of lawyering, what have you done? What's your experience, background, working with the community or community endeavors?
Okay. I've been in Sandy Springs for 35 years. I went to Riverwood High School. After high school, I was originally from Wisconsin. I went back to the University of Wisconsin for college. And then I came back down, and I took a few years off before I went to law school. I worked in a civil firm, learning what big civil firms were like. And then I moved to Montana and bartended for 2 years. Before I came back to school and went to school at Mercer. And Mercer is down in Macon, and they're very involved in their community. And I came back up, and my community involvement was, I went into public service. I became a public defender. And then I started raising my kids. I have two, you know, I've been married to the same woman for 21 years. We met in high school, started dating after college. And both my children are in high school at North Springs. And they are a full-time job for me. The charity that I work most with is breast cancer. My wife has been through it twice. So that is our charity of choice. And that's what I do. I spend my time with my children. They both have very different, one is a big singer. She loves doing that. The other one rides bikes. So we travel around the country riding bicycles. But working with the community, while I was in private practice, I was certified as a guardian ad litem by the ABLF, because there are those divorces that you hear that are, you know, TI, having child support issues, and then there are ones you don't hear anything about, and they're still fighting about their kids, and they both love their kids, but they have to have someone looking out for that child. So that's what I did. I went and got certified as a guardian ad litem so that I could help folks that couldn't afford one. And that's the way I did. And then I went back and was a conflict defender and did that again.
Like Bobby, I've done the programs through the job, but I'm not going to talk about them going to read to children and things of that nature. But that is really on the job work because you're doing it as part of an organization. What I do outside of work that has nothing to do with work and doesn't render any financial pay is, one thing I have done is found a nonprofit organization which is called For the Love of Carla, and it affects people that have sickle cell. Sickle cell is one of my big callings in life. The reason I started that was something very personal to me. My friend is 45 years old and she's a vegetable. and she's a vegetable as a result of sickle cell. And what I found as a family, and not a blood family, but as an extended family, is there are all these expenses that families incur when you're sitting in the hospital time after time, just in parking and meals. And so that was the purpose of the organization, was to give small scholarships to families, and we're not talking about a lot of money, $500, just to kind of offset those costs. I'm also a huge member and a proponent. We started an organization recently called WAVE, W-A-V-E. So we all value excellence. It's been around for about 2 years now. Interestingly enough, the purpose of WAVE started out for homelessness. But what we have ended up doing is a lot with children. Because you quickly learn that children are impacted by homelessness. And so one of those things, we'll go and put clothes together to give to the homeless, or go out literally on Saturday and feed the homeless. This past Saturday, me and my fiance spent hiding eggs all over the place for about 200 underprivileged kids and giving them Easter baskets so that they would have something that is just kind of out of reach and extra for them. And so WAVE is really my big calling right now. And I keep fighting to get on this board of the sickle cell group, but they haven't put me on the board yet. So that's what my next step is.
I'll talk to them. I had them on my show today, actually. Yeah. Okay. I have to manage the time. We do have a second segment to get to. I want to make sure I go to the audience. I always go to the audience for Q&A. And if there are any audience questions, we will take a few. You all will have 1 minute to answer those questions, and then I will allow you to do an outro, and we'll bring our second set. Right in the back, Reverend Love, and then Madam, you will be next.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. My question is, which one of the Supreme Court justices come closer to your worldview, to your philosophical, legal, judicial worldview? And why?
Yeah, anybody can take a crack at that.
I have the really just the blessing and the privilege of having Justice Benham as my mentor. I mean, I can literally call him.
No, Supreme Court,
Oh,
United States.
not the state Supreme Court. That's a harder question. Let me think about it. Let me think about that before I answer.
I'll answer it like this, because we've all been talking to folks, to citizens, asking for votes. That's what we do. And I can't speak for either one of these two, but one of the questions I get is, are you a Democrat or you Republican? How do you feel about this issue or that issue? And my answer is always the same to them. Am I a Democrat or Republican? Neither and both. As a judge, we don't lean one way or the other. As a trial court judge, Mr. Shigley's running for Court of Appeals. As a trial court judge, we use the law as it is. And we apply the law as it is. The facts to the law as it is. Our job is not to interpret. If you don't like the way we rule, then you go up to Mr. Shigley and you say, hey, change it.
Hey, don't jinx me before I get there.
But to say which way we lean, I lean toward the law. And that's the best answer I can give to that question. I'm not going to say I'm Justice Scalia or I'm Justice Ginsburg. I can't do that. I apologize.
We have, 20? I think it's 20 judges on the bench in Superior Court for Fulton County. You can give these judges the same case, the same facts, the same individuals, and each of those judges will render somewhat of a different verdict, a different sentence. There's a variation. And I think Reverend Love's point was, if you identify with Supreme Court Justice, maybe we can get an indication of your judicial philosophy. And so, Ms. Willis, go ahead.
The question was, what is the question?
It's still Reverend Love. Reverend Love's question about Supreme Court Justice, and whatever your answer is, I will allow it to stand.
And I think that it's one of those questions where you don't ever want to cross the line of answering. What I would say to you is, because I have been a trial lawyer so long, there was part of Bobby that I agree with. There was a judge years ago that I was trying cases in front of, and I spent most of my time as a prosecutor screening myself, because I knew they would let the evidence in, but it was wrong. I could get it in if I wanted to, either because of their deficiency and knowledge of the law, or their leaning towards the state. And so you find yourself, if you're really an excellent attorney, making sure that you don't do things that are improper. And it's when you ask me about Supreme Court justices, when I really pay attention to their decisions, which is why I hesitate in answering, is usually when I'm kind of yelling at the paper because I disagree with something they've done. But the truth is, as a trial judge, you have to follow what the law is and what the rules are. But you make a very interesting point. Other than mandatory sentences, it is true. You will get different variations on sentencing. What I will say to you is, I have a lot of defense bar support. People wonder, why do you have all of this defense bar support? You've been a prosecutor here for 16 years. And the reason is because I have bent over backwards to be fair. I had a defense attorney tell me she was attacked for supporting me because why are you supporting another prosecutor? And she told me a story I didn't remember, which was that on a Friday night, a young lady who was selling herself or was a witness to a crime made an appointment to see me, and I sat and I waited there for the lady to come, and she didn't come. And then she called me and said, I'm so sorry, I apologize, but the lady said she can come on Sunday, and I know that's a lot to ask, will you come on Sunday? And I came on Sunday and I interviewed her, and I said, well, you're gonna have to give me like a week or two because she's given me some very interesting information, but I need to go investigate, make sure I corroborate some of the things she said. She said, you ultimately dismissed that case. Do you know how many prosecutors aren't interested in justice? They wouldn't have took their Friday night to wait on the lady. They would have discounted her because she was a prostitute. They certainly wouldn't have wasted their time on a Sunday. And so what I would say to you is the support that I am getting is because people know, as a prosecutor, I was just in a position. Not that I'm better than those defendants, but I was in a position to help more people, and I tried to always do what was right. That doesn't mean give people what they want, because sometimes you have to tell people no, they gonna hurt somebody and it's time for them to go to prison. But there are so many times that you can be creative and do something that is fair in the best interest of everyone.
Okay. And I have time for one more question from the audience, and then we have to do our second set. Madam?
Yes, I just wanted to know, what is your position on the privatization of prisons? It really concerns me, this trend that we're going in, and I want to know, you personally, how do you feel about that? Are you in support of the privatization of prisons? If so, why? And if not, what are the things that alarm you about it?
This is a lot like the Supreme Court judge question. This is something that a Superior Court judge, this is something that the legislature has to take up. This is nothing that a Superior Court judge is going to get involved in. And personal feelings aside, what the law is what is going to be applied in my courtroom. I guarantee there are going to be laws I agree with and laws I don't agree with. Just because I don't believe them, my job is to apply them as they are. Again, there's a gold dome a block and a half away from the Fulton County Courthouse. That's where that question needs to be addressed. I wish I could answer your question better than that, but you don't want a judge, a Superior Court judge, injecting his or her opinion into legislative matters, quite frankly. So I'm going to politely dodge that question.
I just want to say, and I do not speak for everybody here, I'm speaking for myself. There's a hypersensitivity in our community when people say, we just follow the law.
Exactly.
And the reason why is because we went through an era in the 50s and 60s when men simply followed the law.
Exactly.
That wore black robes. And those laws were antithetical to the black man and black woman. And so that's where the sensitivity comes from. Ms. Willis?
I cannot answer the privatization question, but what I can say, which is it's interesting that that's what you said, is if judges are uncomfortable with following the law, they can give certificates of review for a higher court to look at it if they are unsure of that decision. So there are things that judges can do. I had a judge recently tell me, I was asking for them to change a sentence, to make the sentence less. And what they told me is they were not queen for the day, that they were a judge and that they had to follow the rules. And that's important. You do have to follow the rules. But there are things and discretion that can be done that are just humane. And you can make decisions that are humane decisions that certainly while you are unsure of if this was appropriate, somebody can be out on bond while we wait to see if the Court of Appeals says that this is correct. So there are certain things that you can do that are humane while doing your ethical and legal duty, because that's what you're there to do. You're not there to just make the law or be the legislature, but you can certainly do things that are humane to make sure that you are following it appropriately, and if there's a benefit that someone can receive, that they do receive it.
All right, thank you. 1 minute outro, and we'll go to our second set.
Thank you again, Kevin Farmer. And to address your point, following the law, I agree with you. And following the law, there is room built in, and following the law means applying it evenly across social ranges, across racial ranges, across sex ranges. It has to be applied to every citizen the same. And you have to temper mercy, which is your second chances, if a 17-year-old does something stupid, with justice and hard justice. And there are victims, absolutely, who need to be made whole, you know, and then they have civil remedies, and that's part of what being, you know, a lawyer and a judge is. He's been able to have more than just criminal. I know we spent a lot of time on it today, upon the criminal. And I can tell you that there is the law, and we want to apply it, but it's going to be applied evenly and with discretion. You know, prosecutors can come in front. We haven't talked about recidivism at all. You know, the 3 strikes and you're out. There are things prosecutors can do to take discretion away from a judge. We want to run it efficiently. I've been in front of judges in Fulton County. When that call comes up, there's only one answer you were allowed to have: ready. That's all you were allowed to do. You said ready. And that's how you get your case down. You make the lawyers try their cases. Because sometimes lawyers can get lazy. You've got to make them work. Because our tax dollars are paying for that court. You want that system to work efficiently. You know, the fact that I've run my own firm for 9 years, had to, you know, go to civil court for 9 years, go to criminal court for 9 years, and on the criminal side, having seen it from both sides, I think that helps me apply the law in an even manner. Really looking out for the victims. Everybody wants themselves to be safe, but they want their family to get the break. And that's what a judge has to look at. You've got to evenly apply it. And that's what I've spent my whole career trying to build, my knowledge base, so that I can do that. So I can be fair to everybody who comes before me, because nobody ever wants to see a judge. You know, nobody likes lawyers till they meet one, and then they don't even like the lawyer anyway, they just meet them. Hey, but we need judges too. And that's why I'm asking for your vote, starting April 30th, May 22nd. It's Kevin Farmer. My website is farmerforjudge.com. If you've got a comment, my email is farmerforjudge@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer you. Thank you very much for hosting. Thank you for coming. As you said, I know you've had other places to be, but we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'll just end with this. When I am elected judge, I will not be a judge that creates a backlog. I will not be outworked. I will be there every day making sure that cases are handled in an efficient manner so that the victim can get the justice that they need, that the defendant can get the justice and the fair trial that they need. I have had civil experience. I will make sure when I am in that section of family law that those cases are moved efficiently, because I know personally and through watching it how difficult of a time in your life that is. I will be the judge that works hard, will not be outworked, and I will also make sure that Lady Justice really is blind, and that it is not based on anything but the facts and the law that are before us. And it will be important that everywhere that is affected by crime in Fulton County is treated fairly, and that people are given the chances that they need. I've been here in the trenches for 22 years, seeing what's going on in our court system, and I would like to be part of the solution, and so I'm asking for your vote.